Back in San Jose, we continue with After Hours, and our guest, Doug Wilson, GM of the Sharks, and maybe better known to a generation of older fans as one of the best defensemen of his era from 1977 to 1993. And so you break in with the Hawks in 1977 as an 18-year-old, and Stan Mikita is your first roommate. How long did it take you to realize you belonged?
Well, I was really fortunate. I mean, I had my older brother who won 4 Stanley Cups with Montreal, always included me in everything in Montreal, so it's a huge foot up, I think, on most other young people coming in. To have Stan Mikita as a roommate, Keith Magnuson as a defense partner, Tony Esposito as a goalie, I learned by osmosis, I'll be honest with you. I was really fortunate.
Well, there's Murray, and that leads to this question. When you were 3, Murray was 9, your family moved to England for 3 years because your father was in the Air Force, so you missed 3 years of hockey, but at an age that it didn't make a lot of difference. Murray missed, though, 3 very formative years, and he still made it to the NHL. What does that say about his athletic ability?
He's an amazing athlete. I mean, he's one of those guys who would look at something and pick it up right away. He was a decathlete. He could, you name it, he could do it. I mean, he bugs me now because he'll play golf twice a year and he'll shoot 80 or 85. Between him and my sister, who is a world-class high jumper, I'm at least...
You're trying to say you were the worst athlete in the family.
I'm there. I'm not in the top 2. How's that?
Did you play all kinds of other sports as a kid, though?
We did. When we lived in England, my brother used to put me in the net and kick soccer balls at my head, because I was a goalie for 4 years when I came
So you were
back.
out of shape then?
Obviously.
You were the last defensive partner of the great Bobby Orr. I don't know that a lot of general managers are big on memorabilia, but there is a sweater hanging in your office, and it means a lot to you. Tell us about it.
Well, I have 2 things in my office. The one on the right is my Pee Wee jersey, because I want all the players to remember and play the game like they were still a kid. And the one on the left is Bobby Orr's replica of his junior days in Oshawa. It was also something I purchased at the foundation event for Brian Smith, who passed away in Ottawa. Bobby was a huge influence on me, to probably like many young defensemen coming up, and I think he was the greatest player that ever played. I'm biased, but he's also truly a great human being, and he loved the game, and he instilled that in a lot of us that got to meet him.
Tell us about Brian Kilrea. I had Brian in New York as well, and one of the greatest gentlemen in the game of hockey.
Brian Kilrea taught us, as much as he taught us about hockey, he taught more about life. He treated us like men, even when we didn't deserve it. The stories he used to tell at the basement of his house. Killer, I actually just talked to him this morning.
How's he doing?
He's doing unbelievable. There was a trade that he was thinking of doing, and he called me and told me about it. A typical class that he would have, but he was a huge influence in my life, and I don't kid when I say this. I got really lucky with all these type of people coming into my life.
Let's have a look at some vintage videotape of you way back in the 70s playing with the Ottawa 67s. Does that bring back memories?
It does. It does. That's a lot of body parts ago. A lot of.
And how about that picture?
My kids give me a hard time about that. I'm glad it's dark because the afro is huge.
Which leads us to this graphic question. Do you have it, Tim? Here it is from Dave in East Bay, Nova Scotia. That's in Cape Breton, by the way. Doug, what did it take to maintain your signature curly mullet mane when you played in the 80s?
As Brian Kilrea would say, it was a light socket. He had nicknames for me from, well, I can't say.
Oh, we got to look at it again.
Oh.
What are some of your favorite memories from your times in Chicago?
Oh, boy. Where am I going to go with this? Playing in front of maybe the loudest crowd in hockey. I mean, that place was unbelievable. But I came in, I was one of the young kids on a team that had, as I say, guys like Tony and Nets, Keith Magnuson, who was one of the biggest influences in my life, Stan Mikita. They treated me unbelievably. They treated me like a second son. But to play in that building in front of those crowds, Chicago is a tremendous sports town, and to see it coming back right now, but fans treated us really well.
Did you know with your booming shot how intimidating you were in that small rink?
Well, people told me. My brother always told me, he says, at goalies, as much as I like them, always shoot high early. Shoot.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
I was like this.
So hopefully they'll flinch the next one, but the smaller rinks, Boston was great. I played in the old Olympia. In Buffalo, you get inside that blue line, you can score from there.
2 final points before we let you go. You won the Norris in '82, as I said earlier. Only 2 retired Norris Trophy winners are not in the Hall of Fame, you and Randy Carlyle. The point is, the Norris is generally considered a ticket to the Hall of Fame. Do you ever think about it?
I tell you what stands out to me, the most important thing of winning the Norris Trophy. One was a year before my father passed away, and to be able to share that experience. There's a lot of great hockey players in this league that are not in the Hall of Fame. That's for other people to judge. It's been a privilege to be part of this game, to play this game, but that's the thing that sticks in my mind. It was a special time with my father before we lost him.
Oh, I'd suggest that's worth more than the Hall of Fame. A special piece of videotape here, Doug, as we walk into your office, and we'll find on your desk a pair of bronzed skates, and I'm told there is a very interesting story behind the bronze skates. What is it?
Well, that was the year that I won the Norris, and it was my first year of marriage, and my wife wanted to do something special. And these were the skates I was planning on wearing the following year. And we didn't skate a lot during the off season, so I go to my wife and said, you know, I've got to start skating. It's about a week and a half before camp. And she looks at me, she goes pale. She comes and brings me this box that weighs about 30 pounds. She had taken those skates like baby shoes and bronzed them. And in those days, it was tough to get skates come training camp, and I didn't have a great training camp. We're still married. I love my wife, but that was a moment. That was a test.
Did you forgive her for it? Obviously you did. The act of moving, Doug, is enough to keep a person in the house they've been living in their entire life. But I'm told you're on your 9th house in 8 years, your 8th house in 9 years in the Bay Area. What's up with this no fixed address stuff?
Well, my wife is great at building, and I also have a rule of thumb. Every time one of my kids goes off to college, I give her a project and we build another house. And she's done a great job at it. We've got one more house, I think, to build at some point, but just something we enjoy.
All right, fair enough, Doug. Thanks for joining us.
Here.
Thanks. Yeah, Don Hrudey's drawing up plans for the next house right now. Doug Wilson, GM of one of the NHL's elite teams, has been our guest on After Hours. More to come, including Hockey Night in Canada mashup presented by Rogers.